Family parties can look warm from a distance, but up close they feel like a trial. I am Brianna Cole, 34 years old, and for 12 straight months, my own family called me a thief. They said I manipulated a dying old man and stole what I did not deserve. My sister Samantha Cole led the charge. My mother Patricia Cole backed her up, and relatives followed like echo. All because my grandfather George Cole left me his cabin. But there was something they did not know, and I carried it in silence. Grandpa did not just leave me property. He left me a letter, written the day he changed his will. In that letter, he described what he heard Samantha say at his 80th birthday party. The words were so cruel. They broke something in him, and they changed everything. Now let me take you back 14 months, to the phone call that started the storm. The call came at 3:47 in the morning, while I was working a night shift. I was in St. Andrew's Hospital, walking past room 412, checking vitals and charts. My phone buzzed in my scrub pocket, and I almost ignored it, because chaos is normal there. Then I saw the name Mom, and my stomach dropped. Patricia never called me, not during work, not at night, not really at all. I stepped into the hallway, lights humming above me, machines beeping far away. She said, "Your grandfather passed an hour ago. Come home." And the line went dead. I stood there holding my phone, listening to nothing, trying to breathe in a world that kept moving. George was gone, and the floor inside me tilted. He was the only person who ever truly saw me in that family. While my parents praised Samantha for her glossy career, Grandpa sat with me on the cabin porch. He told me I was the one who shows up, and that matters more than titles. 3 weeks earlier, he held my hand, surprisingly strong, and whispered that I was the only one who sat with him. I did not understand then, but I understand now. I asked for emergency leave, drove 4 hours through darkness, and reached my mother's driveway at dawn. Samantha White Lexus was already parked in the prime spot, like she arrived to claim something. By the time I stepped into my mother's house, the air already felt claimed. Samantha Cole was in the kitchen, directing food trays like she was hosting. Patricia Cole moved around her, nodding, praising, smoothing things over. I hugged my mother, and she patted my back like a formality. Then Samantha looked me up and down and said I was late, as if grief has a schedule. I asked where Grandpa George was, and my mother told me the funeral home had him. She said it in a flat voice, like the words were inconvenient. That night, I sat alone in the guest room and stared at the ceiling, replaying my last visit to the cabin. George sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the lake like he was memorizing it. He told me the cabin was not just wood and land, it was where he felt like himself. He asked me to promise I would keep it in the family. I promised, because I thought he meant memories. I did not realize he meant protection. The next day at the funeral, people cried in neat bursts, then turned to business. Samantha accepted condolences like she was being paid. After the service, she cornered me near the parking lot and asked if I knew what Grandpa left me. I told her I did not, because I did not. Samantha smiled like she already had the answer. Then she said I better not try anything. She said Grandpa was confused at the end, and I had always been good at playing innocent. I asked her what she meant, and she said people talk, and people saw me visiting him alone. She said I probably filled his head with stories, and she said I had always wanted what was not mine. I felt my face go hot, but I kept my voice steady. I told her I visited because he asked me to, because someone should. Samantha shrugged and said sure, then walked away like she dropped a seed and expected it to grow. That evening, Patricia pulled me aside and said we needed to be careful because Samantha was very upset. She said families get torn apart over money. I asked why we were talking about money before the will was even read. My mother looked away and said it is not money, it is fairness. 2 days later, an email arrived from attorney Nathan Wolfe, inviting immediate family to a will reading. The date was next Thursday, and the location was his office downtown. When I told Samantha I would be there, she smiled and said good, because everyone needs to see what you did. Attorney Nathan Wolfe greeted us with the kind of calm that means he has seen families fall apart before. He sat us around a conference table, offered water, and asked everyone to silence phones. Samantha Cole did not silence hers. She wanted witnesses. Patricia Cole sat beside Samantha, hands folded, face tight. I sat across from them, alone, feeling like I was on trial without charges. Nathan began reading the will, steady and precise, starting with standard language, then moving into distributions. At first it was small items, a watch to a cousin, a set of tools to an uncle, and sentimental things that made people nod. Then Nathan said the cabin on Pine Lake Road would go to Brianna Cole. The room did not erupt immediately. It froze. Samantha blinked hard, then laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. Patricia turned toward me, with a look that was not grief, it was accusation. Samantha demanded Nathan repeat it, and Nathan did, without flinching. Samantha said it was impossible, because the cabin was the family crown. She said Grandpa promised it would be hers, because she has children, because she deserves stability, because she worked hard. Nathan said the will is clear, and it is valid. Samantha turned to me and said I stole it, plain and loud. She said I manipulated Grandpa while he was weak. She said I played the caring granddaughter to get what I wanted. I felt my throat tighten. But I stayed seated, and I asked Nathan if there was any note from Grandpa. Nathan said there was a letter included, but it was sealed for later delivery, and he would follow instructions. Samantha slammed her palm on the table and said she would contest. Nathan said contesting is her right, but evidence matters. Patricia started crying, saying the family was being ripped apart. Then she looked at me and asked why I did this to them. I told her I did not do anything Grandpa did. Samantha pointed at me and told everyone to remember this moment, because she would expose me. After the meeting, my phone began buzzing with texts from relatives, not asking if I was okay, but telling me to share, to be fair, to keep peace. Samantha sent message after message, saying the cabin belongs to her, saying I should sign it over, saying she would destroy my reputation if I did not. I drove home with my hands shaking on the wheel, realizing they were not grieving Grandpa. They were grieving control. I went to the cabin 3 days later because I needed air and because I needed to feel Grandpa George's presence somewhere real. The driveway was still lined with pines, and the lake still glittered behind the trees, but the place felt quieter without his footsteps. I unlocked the door and stepped inside, smelling old wood, coffee, and the faint trace of his aftershave. I walked through each room slowly, like I was asking permission. On the mantel sat a framed photo from his 80th birthday, taken on the porch, Grandpa smiling, cake behind him, candles glowing in the dusk. I remembered that night clearly, because it was the last time the whole family pretended to get along. Samantha performed, Patricia smiled, and I watched Grandpa's eyes, tired but sharp. In the bedroom, I found a small metal box tucked under the dresser, exactly where he used to keep fishing licenses. Inside was an envelope with my name, Brianna Cole, written in Grandpa handwriting. My chest tightened as I opened it. The letter was dated the day he changed his will. He wrote that he loved both granddaughters, but he could not ignore what he heard at the cabin party. He wrote that he stepped onto the porch for air and heard Samantha talking to her friend Jenna Lawson near the railing. He wrote that Samantha said she could not wait for him to be gone, because the cabin would finally be worth something. He wrote that she talked about selling it fast and splitting money like it was already hers. He wrote that the words made him feel like a wallet, not a grandfather. My hands shook so hard the paper rattled. Then I read the next line, and my stomach dropped. Grandpa wrote that the cabin security cameras recorded the porch that night, and the footage was saved. He wrote that if anyone ever called me a thief, I should let the truth speak for itself. I stood there in silence, hearing the lake outside, and realizing Grandpa planned for this fight. Then I started looking for the storage drive. I searched the cabin like I was looking for a heartbeat, slow and careful, because this place still felt like Grandpa George. In the back closet, I found a small locked cabinet, and behind it, a black box with cables tucked tight. The label said security, and the dust around it said nobody touched it in years. I unplugged it, carried it to the kitchen table, and connected it to my laptop with shaking hands. The screen flickered, then a menu appeared with dates and camera numbers. I scrolled to the night of his 80th birthday, and my stomach tightened as the porch feed loaded. There was Grandpa, smiling near the cake, then stepping inside. A minute later, Samantha Cole walked onto the porch with Jenna Lawson, wine glass in hand, laughing like the world owed her. The audio was clear enough to hurt. Samantha said she could not wait for Grandpa to be gone, because the cabin would finally be worth something. She said it was at least $350,000, and she said they could sell it fast and split it before anyone got smart. Jenna laughed and asked if Samantha felt bad, and Samantha said she felt nothing, because old people cling too long. Then she said the only thing worse than waiting is watching him act like a king in a cabin that should already be hers. I sat there staring at the screen, hearing my sister's voice talk about my grandfather like he was a problem to remove. The anger I felt was not loud. It was cold, the kind that clears your mind. I exported the clip to a flash drive. Then I made a second copy, and I labeled both with the date and time. I took photos of the system, the cables, the serial number, and the screen showing the file list, because I was done losing to stories. Then I called attorney Nathan Wolf. I told him I found a letter, and I found video, and I asked him what to do next. He told me to preserve the originals, keep copies separate, and do not send the video to anyone yet. He said chain of custody matters, and evidence is only powerful if it stays clean. While I was still on the call, my phone buzzed again, message after message from Samantha. She said sign the cabin over by the weekend, or she would make sure everyone knows I stole from Grandpa. I looked at the lake through the window, heard the quiet water, and realized Grandpa left me more than property. He left me the truth, and he left me the timing. The pressure did not slow down. It got louder. Patricia Cole called twice a day, saying I should be fair, saying Samantha has children, saying the cabin belongs to the family, not to one person. I told her Grandpa George made his choice, and I was done negotiating through guilt. 2 days later, I drove back to the cabin to check on things, and my stomach dropped when I saw tire tracks that were not mine. The porch mat was shifted, and the side gate was unlatched. I walked inside and found a window latch scratched, like someone tested it and failed. I called my neighbor, Elliot Harper, the man Grandpa trusted to keep an eye on the place. Elliot answered immediately, and his voice turned sharp when I described the tracks. He said a white Lexus had been parked near the driveway the day before, and a woman walked around the side of the house, looking into windows. He said he asked what she was doing, and she claimed she was family, then drove off fast. That was Samantha. My chest went tight, and then it went calm, because I finally understood the level of entitlement. I called the police, and Officer Marcus Reed arrived within 30 minutes. He walked the perimeter, photographed the latch marks, and took Elliot's statement. He told me it looked like an attempted entry, and he gave me a report number. He also told me to post a no trespass notice, because family is not a free pass to break boundaries. I called attorney Nathan Wolf again, and he told me to do exactly that, and to install updated cameras, because people who feel desperate stop caring about consequences. That night, Samantha called me from a private number, and I answered once, because I wanted her voice recorded in my memory. She said I was hiding at the cabin like a thief, and she said I was making her life harder. I told her she tried to enter property she did not own, and I told her the police report exists. She laughed, but the laugh sounded thinner. Then she said a sentence that confirmed everything. She said, "You do not have proof, you just have stories." I did not argue. I ended the call, looked at the flash drive in my drawer, and thought, she has no idea what proof is waiting. A week later, attorney Nathan Wolf scheduled a follow-up meeting because the harassment was escalating. He told me to bring the letter from Grandpa George and any documentation about the break-in attempt. I arrived with a folder, the police report, photos, and the flash drive copies, sealed in an envelope. Nathan listened. Then he told me the truth in plain language. He said families like mine do not want fairness, they want control. He said Samantha Cole will keep pushing until she hits a wall made of law and evidence and consequences. He advised me to stop responding to group messages and to direct everything through his office. He also said I could pursue a protective order if Samantha continued showing up at the cabin, because intimidation is not a family tradition, it is harassment. That afternoon, Patricia Cole sent a long message saying I was tearing the family apart and Grandpa would be ashamed. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I remembered Grandpa handwriting, steady and clear, saying he felt like a wallet, not a grandfather. I replied once with one sentence. Grandpa knew exactly what he was doing. Then I stopped. I blocked Samantha, muted relatives, and updated my door camera at home. I also installed new cameras at the cabin, and I changed every lock because I was not leaving my life open to people who only show love when money is involved. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the flash drive in front of me, and I did not feel triumphant. I felt sad because the truth was ugly. But I also felt something I had not felt in a long time. Certainty. They can call me a thief for a year. They can perform outrage. They can recruit cousins to pressure me. None of that changes what Samantha said on that porch. And none of that changes why Grandpa changed his will. And when the time comes to speak, I will not raise my voice. I will press play. The weeks after the will reading turned into a slow campaign, and it did not stop. Samantha Cole told everyone I stole the cabin from Grandpa George, and she repeated it until people nodded. Patricia Cole backed her up with soft language, saying families share, saying I should keep peace, saying Grandpa would want harmony. I heard the same sentence from a dozen relatives, just with different names attached. Attorney Nathan Wolfe told me to stop answering and to keep everything in writing. He sent one formal letter to Samantha, stating the cabin transfer was valid and harassment needed to end. Samantha answered with a contest notice. Then she withdrew it. Then she threatened again, because threats are easier than evidence. I stayed quiet, and I let them underestimate me. I spent my weekends at the cabin, fixing what Grandpa loved. I cleaned the gutters, repaired a loose porch board, and replaced a broken lantern by the front steps. I found his old notebook on the kitchen counter, filled with small reminders: salt for the walkway, check the smoke detector, call Elliot Harper if the gate sticks. Reading it felt like hearing his voice again. Steady, practical, protective. Every time my phone buzzed, I reminded myself of the letter in my safe, and the video copies locked away. The truth was not a debate, it was a file. Samantha escalated when she realized guilt was not working. She sent messages demanding I add her name to the deed. She said it was the only fair solution, and she said she would ruin my reputation if I refused. Patricia called my job, not to speak to me, but to leave a message with my supervisor, saying I was under stress and making poor decisions. I reported it to Human Resources, and I told Nathan, because patterns matter. Then Samantha tried a new angle. She started posting about family betrayal, and she used Grandpa photo as a prop. Watching her weaponize his face made something cold settle in my chest. I stopped feeling confused and started feeling clear. I met Nathan again, and he told me to move the original letter and the primary flash drive off-site. He said evidence does not protect you if it can be stolen. I drove to the bank that afternoon, rented a safe deposit box, and placed the letter and one copy inside. I kept only one duplicate at home, sealed and hidden. On the drive back, I realized the hardest part was not losing family approval. The hardest part was watching greed dress itself up as grief, and knowing Grandpa predicted all of it. The break-in attempt happened on a rainy Tuesday, when I was not even near the lake. Elliot Harper called me, voice tight, and said he saw a white Lexus at the cabin. He said Samantha Cole was there, walking around the side gate, and she was not smiling. Elliot told her the property was monitored, and she pretended she was checking on things for the family. Then she tried the back door, and Elliot saw her hand move like she had something small and metal. He told her to step away, and she snapped that she had a right. Elliot called the police, and she tried to leave fast. Officer Marcus Reed arrived, took Elliot's statement, and found fresh scrape marks near the lock. The officer also noted the no trespass sign I posted, and he wrote an incident report. Samantha tried to play innocent when the officer spoke to her by phone. She said she only wanted to grieve, and she said I was keeping the cabin from everyone. Officer Reed asked why she was at the back door, and she went quiet. That report mattered, because it turned her story into a record. I drove to the cabin the next day, checked every latch, and pulled the camera footage. The video showed Samantha walking the porch, then circling to the side door, then freezing when Elliot stepped outside. She looked like a person caught mid-choice. I sent the footage to Nathan Wolfe, and he told me this moved from family drama into documented harassment. He drafted a stronger notice and warned that further attempts could lead to criminal charges. Patricia Cole called me that night, crying, saying I was ruining Samantha's life. I told her Samantha tried to enter property she did not own, and I would not apologize for protecting Grandpa George's wishes. Then I blocked my mother for the first time in my life. 2 days later, Nathan called with an update. He said Samantha was telling relatives I planted cameras to spy, and she was claiming she feared for her safety. Nathan told me not to react, because this is what liars do when evidence appears. He said the safest move is silence and documentation. And he was right. That week, I moved the remaining copy of the porch video into a second secure location, and I changed my home passwords. Then, an invitation arrived in my mailbox, printed on thick paper from Patricia. She announced a memorial dinner for Grandpa George, 1 year since his passing. The date was circled in red ink, like a demand. I stared at it and felt my pulse slow. They wanted a stage. I was finally ready to bring proof. The memorial dinner was held at my mother's house, the same place where grief always turns into negotiation. I arrived early because I wanted control over my breathing and because I did not trust surprises. Patricia Cole greeted me with a tight smile, like she was inviting a problem inside. Samantha Cole was already there, dressed in black, loud jewelry and confidence that looked rehearsed. She hugged relatives, she cried on cue, and then she watched me like she was waiting for me to slip. The living room was full of framed photos of Grandpa George, but the conversations were about the cabin. I heard the word fair at least 10 times, and not one person asked how I was doing. Attorney Nathan Wolfe told me not to bring the flash drive to the house until I was ready to use it. I did not bring it into the kitchen. I kept it sealed, in my bag, and I kept my hand on the zipper. During dinner, Samantha raised a glass and talked about Grandpa's legacy. Then she turned the speech into an accusation. She said some people take advantage of the elderly, and she stared at me while she said it. Patricia nodded along, and a few relatives looked away, uncomfortable but silent. My face stayed calm, and I let her finish. Then I stood up slowly, and I said I brought something Grandpa George left for this exact moment. The room shifted, because people can sense a change in power. Samantha laughed and said I brought another lie, and she told everyone I stole from him. I did not argue. I asked Patricia to turn off the television because I needed the room quiet. My mother hesitated, then complied, because attention was already turning. I placed an envelope on the table first. The copy of Grandpa's letter, dated the day he changed his will. Then I placed the flash drive beside it, still sealed. I looked at Samantha and said she can keep calling me a thief, or she can sit still and listen to what Grandpa heard. The house went quiet in a way I had not heard in a year, and my hand moved toward the laptop. I did not start with the video. I started with Grandpa George's letter, because words written by the dead carry a different weight. I held the paper up so everyone could see the date. Then I read slowly, letting the room hear every line. Grandpa wrote that he changed his will on purpose. And he wrote why. He wrote that at his 80th birthday at the cabin, he stepped onto the porch for air, and heard Samantha Cole talking with Jenna Lawson. He wrote that Samantha spoke about his death like it was a deadline, and spoke about the cabin like it was a check. He wrote that she said she could not wait for him to be gone, because the cabin would finally be worth something. He wrote that she described selling it quickly and splitting the money before anyone could stop her. He wrote that the words made him feel like a wallet, not a grandfather. My mother's face tightened as I read, and a few relatives shifted in their seats. Patricia Cole tried to interrupt once, saying we should not do this tonight. I kept reading anyway. Grandpa wrote that he did not punish anyone out of spite. He made a choice based on character. He wrote that Brianna Cole showed up, listened, and treated him like a person, not an asset. He wrote that the cabin was a piece of his peace, and he wanted it held by someone who respected that. I finished the letter and set it on the table. Samantha laughed, loud and sharp, and said it was fake. She said I wrote it, or forced him to write it. Then she said something she should not have said. She said George was confused, and old men sign anything when they are lonely. The room reacted, not with outrage, but with discomfort, because even her supporters heard the cruelty in that sentence. I looked at Samantha and said Grandpa predicted she would say exactly that. I said that is why he wrote about the cameras. I paused, took one breath, and reached for the flash drive. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop, and I turned the screen so everyone could see. I clicked the file labeled with the date of the cabin party, and the porch camera feed filled the screen. The image was grainy, but clear enough. There was Grandpa George inside by the cake, then he stepped out of frame. A minute later, Samantha Cole walked onto the porch with Jenna Lawson, wine glass in hand, laughing like she had no fear of consequences. The audio hit the room like cold water. Samantha's voice came through the speakers, saying she cannot wait for Grandpa to be gone, because the cabin will finally be worth something. She said it is at least $350,000, and she said they should sell it fast. Jenna laughed and asked if she feels bad. Samantha said she feels nothing, because old people cling too long. I watched my family faces while the video played. Some people stared at the screen, some stared at their plates, and one cousin covered her mouth with both hands. My mother, Patricia, went pale. My father was not there, because he died years earlier. But the silence he left behind felt familiar in that room. Samantha sat frozen, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, like her body forgot how to perform. Jenna's voice on the video asked what if Brianna keeps it. Samantha answered that she will guilt me, and if that fails, she will make everyone hate me. When that line played, the room made a sound, a low murmur of realization. Because that is exactly what happened for a year. Someone whispered. She admitted it. Another person said, that is her voice. Samantha finally moved, snapping that it is edited. She stood up, grabbed for the laptop, and I pulled it back. I told her she tried to break into the cabin, and there is a police report. That shut her up for a second, because lies do not like documents. Patricia started crying, but the crying sounded different now. It sounded like regret. The video ended, and the room stayed silent, like nobody trusted their own voice yet. Patricia Cole stared at me and whispered that she did not know. I told her. She laughed anyway. A cousin asked Samantha if she has anything to say. Samantha shook her head hard. Then she tried to switch to anger, calling me vindictive, calling me dramatic, saying I wanted to humiliate her. I told her she humiliated Grandpa George first. I told her she turned his life into a countdown, and his home into a price tag. Jenna Lawson was not in the room, but her name hung there like smoke. A few relatives asked why Samantha lied for a year. Samantha snapped that she deserved the cabin because she has children and expenses. An aunt asked why children should benefit from cruelty. Samantha looked around, searching for support, but support does not survive a video. Patricia tried to salvage the night, saying we should forgive and move forward. I told her forgiveness is not the same as access. I told her I will not keep a relationship with anyone who calls me a thief while defending the person who wished my grandfather dead. That sentence landed hard, and it was meant to. I stood up, gathered the letter, and removed the flash drive. I told them the cabin stays mine, and it stays a place of peace. I told them anyone who wants to visit will do it on my terms, with respect and without pressure. Samantha shouted that I am tearing the family apart. I told her the family was already torn, and she just did not expect the truth to be stitched back together in public. I walked out of the house with my head up, and the air outside felt cold and clean. Elliot Harper texted me a simple message, "Proud of you." I sat in my car for a moment, hands steady on the wheel, and realized something. For 12 months they controlled the story. In one night, the story stopped being theirs. The next morning my phone filled with messages that felt like damage control. A cousin wrote that she is sorry, and she should have asked questions sooner. An aunt wrote that she always suspected Samantha Cole was selfish, but she did not want conflict. Patricia Cole sent a long text saying she never meant to hurt me, and she did not know the full story. I read it twice, then I set my phone down. Because for a year, she did know enough. She knew Samantha called me a thief, and she joined the laughter, or the silence, or the pressure. That matters. Samantha did not text me at all. Instead, she posted online about betrayal, saying her sister humiliated her at a memorial dinner. She did not mention Grandpa George's words. She did not mention the porch video. She only mentioned her feelings, because feelings are safer than facts. Attorney Nathan Wolfe told me to screenshot everything, because defamation can become leverage if it grows. He also told me to expect one more escalation, because people who lose control often try to regain it through chaos. He was right. By noon, Patricia called and asked if we can meet, just the two of us. I said we can meet with a third person present, or not at all. Patricia got offended, then softened, then cried. She said she is my mother. I told her I am her daughter, and she still let her favorite destroy my name. Patricia asked if I can forgive Samantha. I said, forgiveness is not a legal contract, but trust is. Samantha will not have access to my life until she takes responsibility, in full, in public, the same way she accused me in public. Patricia went quiet, and I knew she did not want that, because it would make her own choices visible too. That afternoon I drove to the cabin, because I needed the lake more than I needed more texts. I sat on the porch steps where Grandpa used to sit, and I watched the water shift under the wind. Anger came late, not loud, but heavy, not only at Samantha, but at everyone who watched it happen, and called it family. I let the anger sit for a moment, then I let it go, because the cabin was never meant to hold poison. I changed the subject in my own mind, from revenge to protection. I updated the cameras again, tightened the locks, and posted a fresh no trespass notice. I also wrote down one boundary in plain words. Nobody gets access to peace if they tried to steal it. 2 weeks later, Samantha Cole finally called me. Her number showed on my screen like a dare. I answered, not because I wanted drama, but because I wanted clarity. She started with anger, saying I ruined her life, saying I embarrassed her in front of family. I let her talk until her voice ran out. Then I asked one question. I asked if she denies the video. She went silent for a breath. Then she said it was a private conversation, and it was taken out of context. That is how she tried to escape truth, by calling it context. She said she was stressed. She said she was venting. She said she did not mean it. She never said she was sorry for saying it. She only said she was sorry it was seen. Then she pivoted to the cabin again. She said we can share it, like sisters, like family. She said she can help maintain it, and she can bring the kids, and we can move forward. I told her no. I told her Grandpa George left it to me, because he heard her speak about him like he was already gone. I told her she does not get to turn cruelty into a negotiation. Samantha raised her voice and said Grandpa was manipulated. I told her Grandpa changed his will after hearing her own mouth. Then I told her the next part, clear and final. Because she tried to break in, because she harassed me for a year, and because she has not owned her actions, she is not welcome at the cabin. Samantha called me selfish. I told her selfish is wishing your grandfather dead for money. She hung up, and I sat in my kitchen feeling strangely calm. The call proved what I needed to know. She did not miss Grandpa. She missed control. That night I called Elliot Harper and thanked him for watching the cabin. He told me Grandpa would be proud, and I believed him. Over the next month, the noise died down, because facts do not need constant defending. Samantha could not contest the will without losing money she did not have, and without explaining the video to a judge. Patricia stayed distant, ashamed but unwilling to change her pattern fully. Some relatives returned slowly, with careful messages, asking if they can visit the cabin sometime. I told them maybe, and only if they respect boundaries. I was not punishing them. I was protecting myself. I also made changes that felt like closing a chapter. I refinished the porch rail, the same rail Samantha leaned on when she made that cruel joke. I replaced the old porch light, not because it was broken, but because I wanted the cabin to feel like mine, not like a crime scene. I found Grandpa's fishing pole in the shed, and I cleaned it, then hung it on the wall like a memory. I also put the letter he wrote into a frame, not as a weapon, but as a reminder of why truth matters. The cabin is not an investment to me. It is where Grandpa taught me to build a fire, and where he told me that showing up is a form of love. It is where he listened when nobody else did. Keeping it is not revenge. Keeping it is honoring the one person in my family who valued people over money. One afternoon, I sat by the water with my laptop closed. No messages, no calls, no noise. I watched the lake and thought about how easy it is for families to create a villain, and how hard it is for that villain to stand up without becoming cruel in return. I did not become cruel. I became clear. And clarity is what finally protected me. If you are listening and you have been called names to make you surrender, hear this. You do not have to hand over your peace to prove you are good. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is keep what you were given and let the truth speak louder than guilt. A month after the memorial dinner, Patricia Cole asked attorney Nathan Wolfe for a meeting. She did not ask me directly. She asked through legal channels, because she knew I would say no if it was emotional pressure. Nathan told me Patricia wanted a reconciliation plan. Her words, and I almost laughed. My mother did not want repair. She wanted the mess to look clean. We met in Nathan's office, daylight through blinds, a box of tissues nobody touched. Patricia sat with her hands clasped like she was in church. She said she wants the family back, and she said she is tired. I asked her what she is tired of, the conflict or the consequences. Patricia said she did not understand how deep it was, and she blamed grief. Nathan asked a simple question. Did you call Brianna Cole a thief? Patricia did not say no. She said she was confused, and she was trying to protect Samantha. That was the truth, and hearing it out loud made my stomach settle. Patricia asked if I would consider adding Samantha Cole to the cabin deed, just for fairness. I told her no, and I said it once. I told her fairness is not sharing a cabin with the person who wished Grandpa George dead for money. Patricia flinched. Then she tried a softer tactic. She said Samantha has children, and Samantha is struggling. I told her struggle does not create entitlement, and children do not make cruelty disappear. Nathan slid a paper across the table, a draft agreement stating Samantha will stop harassment, stop defamation, and accept the will. In return, I would not pursue further action related to the break-in attempt, unless it happened again. Patricia read it, and she hesitated. The hesitation told me everything. Even now, she wanted protection for Samantha more than peace for me. Nathan said if Patricia wants family back, it starts with accountability, not demands. Patricia looked at me and asked if I can forgive. I told her forgiveness is not a performance, and I do not owe it on a schedule. I told her my boundary: no more guilt, no more pressure, no more pretending Samantha is the victim. Patricia left without signing anything. She walked out slowly, and her shoulders looked heavy. Watching her, I realized silence has a cost, and she finally felt it. The months after that meeting were quieter, but the quiet was not peace for everyone. Samantha Cole kept posting vague messages online, but fewer people reacted, because people saw the video, and people do not unsee it. A cousin told me Samantha tried to tell a new version, that she was joking, that George was dramatic, that I staged the whole thing. The cousin said it did not land anymore. Samantha also tried to recruit Elliot Harper, stopping him at the gas station near the lake, asking if he will tell the police he made a mistake. Elliot told her no, and he told her to leave him alone. That response mattered, because Samantha could only survive if someone else carried her lot. One afternoon, Officer Marcus Reed called me with an update. He said the district attorney declined to file charges from the first break-in attempt because entry did not occur. But he said the report stays, and if there is another incident, the history will matter. I thanked him. Then I called Nathan Wolfe, and Nathan told me to keep the footage archived. Samantha grew bolder as the year moved on, like she thought time erases facts. She drove to the cabin again, parked near the driveway, and walked toward the porch. The new camera caught her face clearly, and the motion alert hit my phone instantly. I called Elliot, and I called the sheriff. Samantha left before deputies arrived, but the footage existed, and the trespass notice existed. Nathan sent a final warning letter, stating the next incident would trigger action. Samantha responded with one last voicemail for me, crying and raging in the same breath, saying I ruined her, saying I owe her. I listened once, saved it, and did not reply, because I learned something important. When a person says you owe them, after they tried to take from you, what they really mean is they miss the old version of you. The version who stayed quiet and handed over peace to keep them comfortable. That version of me is gone. By late summer, the cabin stopped feeling like a battlefield and started feeling like home. I invited 2 friends for a weekend, people who never asked about the will first. We cooked dinner, sat on the porch, and watched the lake turn orange at sunset. I told them stories about Grandpa George, the time he tried to teach me to fish and hooked his own hat, the time he pretended he hated my music, then hummed along when he thought I could not hear. Laughing there felt like healing. I also began volunteering at a hospice center once a month, because watching families fight over money made me want to give something back where it counts. I sat with strangers, held hands, listened, and thought about how Grandpa wanted, more than anything, to be treated like a human until the end. I put his fishing pole in a shadow box, not as a shrine, but as a reminder of what matters. I planted wildflowers near the porch steps, because Grandpa liked color against wood. I also updated my own paperwork, a will, a beneficiary list, and a clear plan, because I learned a lesson the hard way. People you love can still become greedy, and planning is protection, not paranoia. Patricia Cole sent a card around Thanksgiving, short, with no apology, but no attack either. I accepted it as a sign she was thinking, even if slowly. Samantha Cole went quiet for a while, and the silence felt like relief, not loss. One cold morning I stood on the porch with coffee, watching mist lift off the lake, and I realized I was not holding the cabin to win. I was holding it to honor the one person who saw me clearly. If you are listening and your family calls you names to force surrender, remember this. Truth does not need a crowd. It needs preservation, patience, and the courage to press play when the time is right. Winter came early that year, and the lake froze at the edges like it was learning restraint. I spent a quiet weekend at the cabin, alone, because quiet is where grief finally speaks without being interrupted. I found a small photo album tucked in the bottom drawer of Grandpa George's desk, the kind with sticky pages and clear film. The first page held pictures from his 80th birthday, the porch decorated, the cake centered, his smile wide and tired. I turned the pages slowly, and near the back I found a single note, folded into a square taped behind a photo. It was Grandpa handwriting again, smaller than the letter, but still steady. He wrote that people will try to rewrite your story when they do not get what they want. He wrote that love is not measured by who shows up for the will reading. It is measured by who shows up when nobody is watching. He wrote that if I ever doubt myself, I should sit on the porch, listen to the water, and remember he believed me. I read that note twice, and I felt something unclench in my chest. In the past, I chased approval like it could heal me. Now I wanted something else. Consistency, peace, and distance from manipulation. I called Elliot Harper to thank him again, and he told me he still misses Grandpa, and he still keeps an eye on the property because it feels right. I asked him if Samantha Cole had been around lately. Elliot said no, not since the last warning letter. He said people like Samantha do not stop because they understand. They stop because the cost gets too high. That was the most honest sentence I heard all month. Before I left the cabin, I placed Grandpa's note in a small frame on the mantel, beside the photo from his 80th birthday. I did not do it to prove anything to anyone. I did it so I would see it when storms hit, and remember what he wanted, a home, not a war. By spring, the family noise had faded into a low hum, like a radio in another room. Patricia Cole stopped sending guilt messages and started sending neutral updates, birthdays, holidays, weather. It was not an apology, but it was a retreat. Samantha Cole tried one more time, through a cousin, asking if she can bring her children to the cabin for a weekend, just to make memories. The cousin said Samantha sounded sad, and she sounded sincere. I asked one question. Did Samantha say she is sorry for what she said about Grandpa George? The cousin went quiet, then said no. She only said she misses the cabin. That was my answer. I told the cousin that the cabin is not a reward for nostalgia. I said Samantha can build memories in places she did not try to steal. I also said if Samantha wants any future contact, it starts with a real apology to Grandpa memory and to me, and it happens in writing, with accountability, not tears. The cousin said I was harsh. I said harsh is wishing an old man dead for money. Setting a boundary is not harsh, it is honest. Later that week, I met attorney Nathan Wolfe to finalize the last paperwork, the deed transfer filing, updated insurance, and a written no trespass directive on record. Nathan told me the file is clean, and the law is on my side. I told him the law matters, but peace matters more. He nodded like he understood, because he sees this every day. I drove to the cabin that evening, sat on the porch as the sun dropped, and listened to the water. I did not feel victorious. I felt steady. The cabin stayed mine, and the truth stayed mine. And that combination finally gave me something my family never offered: safety.